Today I will show you how to knit Norwegian Selbu mittens or Selbu votter. These two are typical examples of how they look. The shape of these type of mittens are always the same. The technique of knitting them is the same. And the thing that varies is the pattern. You have a lot to choose from. If you Google Selbu votter and look at pictures, you will get tons of ideas of patterns you can knit. The patterns for these two mittens I will link to those in the video description, so you can use the patterns if you want to make these. And when I knit these mittens, I use a wool yarn like this, and this yarn should give 22 stitches per 4 inches or 10 centimeters when using a 3.5 millimeter knitting needle. I think that is the same as a US 2.5, but you should really check that because I'm not really sure. I go down half needle size. I use 3 millimeters. That is because I want the mittens to be a little bit firm, so that they won't lose their shape as easily when they are used. So yeah, that is what I'm going to do. I need 5 knitting needles. I will cast on 48 stitches evenly distributed on 4 of them. That is 12 stitches on each knitting needle. And I will start by just making this loop and slip knot like this. And here I have my first stitch. When I cast on, you know, there are several different techniques of doing that. I use a very simple one. I don't need a long yarn end here to make sure I get all my stitches. I only need enough so that I am able to fasten and secure it afterwards. So, but now I'm really just going to tuck it away here. So I hold the yarn like this, just my forefinger under the yarn, twist around, and I take my knitting needle down here, and from underneath I go up through the loop, let go, and I tighten. Make sure you don't pull it too tight because it will be impossible to knit your first row if you do. Again, from underneath, twist, knitting needle down here and up through the loop, let go and tighten. And I will do this until I have 12 stitches on my knitting needle. The advantage of using this technique to cast on is that you will get a very elastic cuff on your mitten. If you see here, I can pull it quite wide and still it, because I use a bit smaller needle, it's still firm. So some people don't like using this technique because you can get a bit unstable and uneven result when you knit your first row. But don't worry, it's only the first row. When you have done your second and third row, it's not noticeable. So I will just keep going until I have all 4 knitting needles. Six, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And when I get a new needle, I put it on the I put it under the last one, like this, and I just hold it and I keep going, making sure I get the first stitch here close to the last one. This is what I tried to explain earlier, that you can get these gaps and it will look uneven. Don't worry, you shouldn't get too many of those, but you can always try and shuffle them a bit or just redo it. No problem. It'll go away after second row, promise. 4th knitting needle, 12 stitches on this as well. Okay. Now I will knit the cuff, and I will do, as you can see here, I knit and purl, knit, purl, knit, purl every other time. This pattern, just be creative. There are hundreds of different patterns on the cuff. On this mitten, I knitted 2, I purled 2, knit 2, purl 2. Both ways are equally common, so any way you choose. So now I'm ready to begin, and I'm just going to show you how I do it. First row, as I mentioned, please don't get too frustrated. The first row is always a pain to knit when you do this. So, as I explained, I'm going to knit 1, purl 1, knit 1 and purl 1. So I start knitting 1. I do this the continental way. I know there are other techniques, but this is the only one I know. I stick my knitting needle in from underneath here. I pick up the yarn. I hold, just have to say that as well, I hold the yarn over my pointing finger and I secure it here. So, but this is also just any way you like. And I pick up the yarn like this, pull it through the first stitch here, like this. And when I purl, I go from the other side, underneath, like this, pick up the yarn through the stitch, let go. And then I knit again under here, pick up the yarn, pull it through and loose. From behind, go behind the yarn here and in from underneath, pick up the yarn, pull it through and let go. And I just keep going. And when I get to the end of the knitting needle, this will get better when you have done a few rows, but especially on the first row you have to notice that, let's see, here I have the last stitch. Sometimes you get a gap between here. just make sure when you start the next needle that you pull this next stitch close to the last needle you knitted. And then if you don't pull too hard on the next stitches, this gap will disappear. So now I'm just going to finish this row, and then I will keep going round and round and round and round the same way, and I will change to black and do the pattern that I showed you just a minute ago, and I will get back to you when my cuff is done and I'm ready to knit the mitten itself. Okay, so now I'm done knitting the cuff, and I should start doing the mitten. So I have done the whole cuff, knit 1, purl 1, and now on the first round, now I will do only knit stitches, no purl stitches, like this, and I will increase my work by 4 stitches evenly distributed. So then in the middle of each knitting needle I will make 1 stitch, and I have 12 stitches on each needle, so I will knit 6 stitches. Now I'm in the middle, and I will make 1 stitch, and I do that by picking up this yarn here in between my 2 needles. I pick it up like this with my right needle, and I put the left needle in like this, and then I knit by doing, I'm not sure how to explain this, so I'll just show you slowly, like this. And now I can pick up the yarn, pull it through, and there you can see I have added 1 stitch. And then when I knit the next one, you can hardly see it. So I will go on and I will show you one more time. First, I will knit my 6 stitches, and there you have it in between. I just pick it up with my right needle, I stick my left needle in here and away from me, and I let it go like this. And the reason why I do this before I knit it is because then I kind of twist the stitch. So I don't know if you can, it will be the same as if I did this and then knitted it. Then you can see that it crosses. It makes a cross here, and when I knit it, then you can see I will get a really good result here. If I didn't, I'm going to undo this and I will show you what will happen if we just pick it up like this, and I do not twist the yarn before I knit. I just do like this. Then you can see I get this big hole here. And when I knit the next one, you can see the hole remains. So you don't want to be doing that. So instead, twist and knit like that. So I will do that on the next 2 needles as well, so that I have 4 in total, and then I will get back to you. Okay, I'm finished increasing. I now have a total of 52 stitches, and I will start by doing this pattern here. And for those of you who are not familiar with knitting patterns with 2 colors at the same time, I will just explain. I choose a bottom color or a main color, this one, because this is the one that is kind of making the background. It's the main color and background color. I always keep it closest to me. And the pattern color, or secondary color if you like, I keep it away from me. It doesn't really matter. If you want to do it the other way around, you can. The most important thing is that you are consistent, that you do the same all the time. Because if you don't, you will see that you get a very uneven knit, and that just try an example. Here you can see it's all even. If I were to somewhere here in the middle switch places, then the black would appear a lot thicker. It will dominate the nature colored yarn in a different way. So you would get it will look like kind of a border or something, a change. So it will look completely different. And you will notice if you forget, and you probably will, I have done it a lot of times. So just whatever you choose, just be consistent. And I will just start just knitting 1 black, 1 white, black, white. It's just as easy as knitting with one color of yarn. It's just that you have to remember which one to pick up. So and just to keep them separated, I now have my main color here in between these 2 fingers and my secondary color in between these 2, and I secure it here with my little finger. So it's not, when you get some practice, it's not difficult at all. You don't really think about it anymore. So that's all there is to it. So I will now knit this part and the 1 row here with only 1 color, and then I have to start increasing here for the thumb, and I will get back to you with how I do that. I'm now done knitting this pattern here and the next row, so I should start now by knitting the main pattern here and increasing for the thumb. So this is the left mitten. When I make this one, which is going to be knitted the exact same way, I just want to move the thumb from here to here. So the point of this is to just show you how to increase for the thumb. Now I'll just have to start by knitting this pattern because I don't want to make two mittens for the same hand. So let's see, 7. No. Yeah, and look here. I now have done what I told you before not to do. I managed to switch colors, so there you go. You have to be really careful about that. I need to get them like this. Now I can continue. So I will just do the front of the mitten first. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I will take 1, 7 from here, just so I get the whole of this pattern on the same 2 knitting needles. Makes it easier to remember what's where, and it's easier to avoid making mistakes later. And now I will do this side, only I will mirror it. I'll start by doing this side here, the side pattern. So I'll do black, white and black to begin with. Then I will knit this stitch here. Now I will do the side here on the thumb, there, and this and this I will make. So I will make one exactly the same way as I did before. I knit one black, and then I make the next one. And then I knit this edge here. Now I have done the first increase for my thumb. And then I just have to do this pattern here. Just have to organize a bit. I will just finish the row. Yeah, here. Now I am there, and I have to make the side there. So black, white and black. Now I have done the first row, and here where I increased for the thumb, I did these two, and I am going to knit 2 more rows, so it'll be 1, 2, 3 here, and then in the next row I will increase here and here, always increase closest to these black stripes here along the edge of the thumb. So the row I increase will be the first, then I will knit the second, third, increase, knit second, third, increase, and so on until you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And then when you get here, the next I will show you is how to make the hole for the thumb and how to keep going after that. Now I have done all my increases for the thumb. I've made all of them next to this black edge here, or stripe. The next thing I'm going to do is to make the hole for the thumb. So I will start by knitting these first 4 stitches. Like this. And then I have this safety pin. This is one made for knitting, but you can use an ordinary safety pin, a yarn end, anything you have that can be used. And I take these 11 stitches for the thumb and I put it over to the safety pin. Just like this. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 stitches. Okay. And then we have 11 of the stitches are for the thumb, and the 2 here on the side is for the side pattern. So now we need 11 more stitches, and I shall cast on 11 new stitches, but the colors I use have to, and the pattern have to match. So the next I'm going to knit here is white, black, white, black, white, black, white, and black. So this one will be black in the next row. And so 11 stitches will mean that I will end with the color I start with. And if this is going to be black, white, black, white, black, yes, then I will start and I will end with a white. So it will be like this. I start with the white. 1, 2, 3. I just used the same technique that I did when I cast on for the cuff. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, like this. So when I keep going, it should be matching the rest of the pattern here. So I am going to start with black, white, black, white, and black. Yeah, there you can see it matches. So now you just continue knitting around and around and around until you get to the point where you are about to cast off and make this pointy tip of the mitten. And I will get back to you and show you how to cast off on these mittens. Now I'm at the point where I am going to start casting off, and to do that we just start at the beginning of the row. This is the last row I knitted of the pattern, and now the tip of the mitten is going to be like an angle. This side is going to point to the left and this one to the right. So we are going to cast off 4 stitches on each row, and we are going to start by casting off to the left. And when I do so, I just take 1 stitch loose off, I knit the next one, and then I take the first stitch and I pull it over and loose, and I just tighten a bit. And so I keep knitting my pattern. Just making sure I get it right here. And when I get to the end of my second knitting needle, I will cast off my second stitch. And I will do this by knitting this next to last stitch like this. I put it back on my left knitting needle and I take the last stitch and just pull it over and let it go. I then take this stitch back on my right needle and I tighten. And so I knit the side pattern like this. Now I'm casting off to the left again. 1 stitch loose off, knit the second, pull the first over and tighten. And then I will keep knitting my pattern. Okay, so now I have the last 2 stitches before the side pattern, and as I forgot to mention earlier, I'm going to cast off now to the right by knitting the first stitch, putting it back, taking the last one, pull it over, back on the right knitting needle and pull to tighten, and then knitting the second side pattern. Now I've done my first row, and so on each row you keep doing this, cast off 4 stitches in each row, and I will show you what to do when you are almost finished. I'm now done casting off, and you can see I only have a few stitches left, 8 to be exact. As you can see, I also have only 2 knitting needles. The other 2 I took away when I got this few stitches, because it's not easy to keep control of all 4 when you only have 8 stitches. So I'm going to finish by using one yarn end. I've already cut the yarn, and I will knit the last row, but I'll just pull the yarn end through the stitch like this. Like this. So I will keep going. There's the first 4. And there is the last one. And now you can see it doesn't look very pretty. It's uneven and it's too pointy. So to fix that, I'm going to stick my hand inside and here you can see I can make a hole right in at the tip, and then I just twist the 2 colors of yarn together and I stick it through the hole like this, and I turn my mitten inside out there, and I pull the yarn ends out here on the inside. And as you can see, it's just as even on the inside. So I just gently pull on my yarn, careful not to break it, and I make 1 knot. Later I'm going to just fasten these yarn ends by sewing them to the inside here. So when I turned my mitten back again, there. Now you can see it has the familiar Selbu mitten shape. So to make it perfect, you need to steam it with, for example, a wet towel and an iron. Then it will look really smooth and even. So now we are left with the thumb. So when I knit the thumb, you can choose if you like to use 4 needles. I think it's a bit too few stitches for that. So I like to use 3 needles. And I begin by picking up 11 stitches from this side. And I take them from this side here. And I do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because I need to do 5 and 6 as it is an uneven number. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So there's 11. On this side, okay, I will just, this has moved there. I will just transfer the stitches from my safety pin and over to a knitting needle. Like this. Okay, now I'm ready. Here I have both my yarns. I will make a knot. This is not something that you have to do, it's something I do because I think it's easier this way. I will stick this one inside here, inside the thumb hole, and pull until it comes out here. And the reason for the knot is to keep these two together, and they are easy to recognize because I sometimes need to pull it. And I will start here. And I will just organize myself as the same way as when I knitted the mitten. And to not pull this through when I knit the first stitches, I just twist it around my thumb to secure it. So I'm now ready to start knitting this. And this is the side of the mitten. So this should always be knitted in black. I will just have to look at my other mitten here so that I get my pattern right. And now I can let go of this. So there I am done with the first row, the front side of the first row anyway. When I am switching to my second knitting needle, I need to pick up one more stitch from here somewhere and I will see. First I will check how it goes with the pattern, because now I have this one here, so it's going to be white, 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 black, and I need to pick up one and it will be white. So okay, and I will try not to make a big hole here when I do this, so I will just try. Yeah, that one seemed okay, and then I will just continue. Like this. And for the last knitting needle, I will first keep knitting the same pattern. And I will do the same thing here. I will pick up one more stitch. As you can see here, the yarn is too loose, so it will be a hole. Then I just pick up both this and this. Make sure I don't get the black color here, only the white. And then I will pull it like this. Try that. I think that was better. We'll knit it and see. No, that didn't work. Then I will have to, let's see, try this. No. So, as you can see, this is a bit loose. That can happen. So, what I will do is that I will just find one. I will twist it and knit it, pull it tight, and this hole I get here, so it's not too big, I will close that when I fasten the yarn ends afterwards. This happens sometimes when you do not pull the yarn tight enough at the row where you knit the thumb hole. So, but it's easy to fix when you fasten the yarn ends on the back side. Then you just sew it so you close the gap, and it will be no problem. Just make sure you remember to do it. Now I'm starting over again, and you can see here that I'm pulling. This ends up very loose, just because I'm still able to pull on the yarn end here. So I secure it around my thumb again, and I tighten everything. And I keep knitting. After just a couple of stitches you can let it go again. And this you only have to do for the first 2 or 3 rows. After that you can just forget about it, because you will have knitted so that it is kind of stuck in all the stitches. So you will keep going, knitting your pattern like this. Go round and round and round, same technique as when you knitted the mitten itself. When you have knitted a couple more rows, it'll be easier and easier, because then you will get it a bit away from the mitten itself. And as you can see, when you cast off, it's the same technique as it is here. So you do it the exact same time, same way. I do have to say I'm sorry about my English. I know it's not very good, but please bear with me. I hope you get enough information to actually be able to do this yourself. So I will not show you this because it's exactly the same as I did here. Only thing you have to know is that according to this pattern you will have 2 more stitches on this side of the thumb than you have on this side. So when you have casted off all your stitches, you will be left with a couple more stitches on this side. That's not a problem. You just, I think you have 1 stitch here, 1 here, 1 here, and I think you have 3 underneath. But that is the way it's supposed to be. So really thank you for taking your time watching this, and good luck knitting your own Norwegian Selbu mittens.